Say, listen, I'm writing my estimate based on what I can see. And, once you get your contractor out here and he starts getting the subs lined up and they really start to dig into this thing, if they find that there's more damage, if the repairs are going to be more extensive, if we have to actually replace those cabinets instead of just pulling them out and putting them back in, because I'm not going to pull them out to look at the back of them or whatever, call us back and we'll work with your contractor to make sure we get you the right amount of money to do this work. All you got to say.
This is Adjuster TV, Adjusters First. Adjuster TV is brought to you by Kaplik. Learn all about E&O and other insurance for adjusters at cplic.net/adjustertv. And by the National Association of Catastrophe Adjusters. Joining NACA will provide you with the resources you need to build a lasting career as a claims professional at adjustertv.com/NACA. And by Adjuster TV Plus. Get unlimited access to a growing library of the best adjuster training videos created by the most trusted name in claims, Adjuster TV, at adjustertvplus.com.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and is going to do something interesting for the new year, which, if you're like me, interesting could mean doing nothing, not staying up late, just sliding into the new year, no big deal. But I wanted to really quick to let you guys know that we have some Adjuster TV merchandise and for our conferences. Okay, so these hats, I have three different colors of them. There's khaki, navy, and these gray ones, kind of, light black or whatever. If you come up to me at the conference and you sit down in front of the camera and answer a few questions and just have a little basic conversation, talk about your experience as a new adjuster or as an experienced adjuster, and let us record that and then, put it wherever, then get you a hat. I also have some knockoff Yeti tumblers that have Adjuster TV on them, which we'll be giving out as well for that same reason. But you can only get them if you sit down and, engage with us on video. So super fun, super easy. I'm not going to ask you hard questions about, construction or whatever. It's just more talking about your experience at the conference and your experience as a new adjuster, how 2022 went for you, what you're looking forward to in 2023, et cetera, et cetera. So pretty excited. Today's the 27th. Again, just had Christmas and, like most of the country up here in Montana, we had last week a no joke, legit 30 below zero without the wind chill. And, it was super cold and it was sub-zero, minus 20, minus 25, minus 15, minus 30 for pretty much all week. So we were a little bit chilly. Now it's above freezing. It's like 38 degrees and all the snow. We got a bunch of snow along with all that freezing temperatures. And of course now I have a little bit of ice dam at my house, which I've had to get up on the roof and shovel stuff off to get the ice and stuff broken up so it's not leaking into the house anymore. But I know that there are some deployments. I've heard about the Northeast, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, places like that, Maine, New York State, where there's deployments. State Farm, I know that Sedgwick is sending people up there. I know that Alacrity is sending people up there. And saw that QA Claims is sending people up there. This is the kind of thing that happens over the winter. And, if you have questions about what kind of claims those are, basically those are probably going to be anything ranging from, pipe freeze, whether they had power outages or not. If it's super duper cold, your pipes can freeze even if you've got the heat on full blast. But chances are you had weight of snow and ice, a lot of icing and, things like that. Pulling tree limbs down and tree limbs taking out power lines, knocking out the power to whole neighborhoods or whole, sides of cities and things like that. And then obviously if there's no power, then you can't it's almost impossible to keep your pipes warm, so you got to run the water, and you've got to do all kinds of things to keep them from freezing. And if you happen to be out of town, like a lot of people are out of town for the holidays, there's probably going to be a lot of pipe freeze, and pipe freeze can be devastating damage. Those can be huge claims. If you had a pipe, I've had pipe freeze claims. I had them in Long Island. Gosh, I was back in the early 2000s, and the entire houses are gutted because the upstairs bathroom pipe froze and split. And there's a big split right in the middle of the pipe where it just blew out. They were in Florida for the holiday or for winter or whatever, and water sprays out continuously as soon as it starts to warm up, and all the drywall, everything inside their entire house from that bathroom down is ruined. So these can be pretty big claims. These could potentially involve ALE. They're definitely going to involve some contents, paying for contents that were damaged. You can also have weight of ice and snow claims on houses. So if you have 2 feet of snow, which we literally is what we had. It's pouring rain today, and we had 2 feet of snow, but we have like timber frame house, so it's designed to carry like thousands of extra pounds. So we're not worried about weight of snow on our house where we're at. But if you have that much snow, and then, even 3 feet, or, Buffalo, New York, they might have 4 or 5 feet of snow up on their roofs, and then it warms up a little bit and rains on it, then that gets super, super, super heavy, and it'll cause conventional framing in particular, especially if they don't have like a scissor truss or a W truss system in their attic to support the roof. You can have things collapse. You can have the walls kick out, and the roof will cave in right in the middle of the house. Significant claims. They can be big, nasty claims. Again, ice dam is another thing where you have conditions where it's inside the footprint of the house, the heat rises straight up, and if they have an attic and the roof isn't insulated, it's just shingles, felt, plywood, and then the attic, nothing's in there, and then you have like blown in insulation on the top of the ceiling of the upstairs, or the above the whatever the topmost floor is. If it's not fully insulated, then the attic can get warm, right? And you think, well, that might be great. Problem is that it warms up the bottom side of the wood. If it gets above freezing, then the bottom side of the snow that's sitting on the roof will start to melt, and then it'll run water all the way down to the edge. And when it gets to the edge where you have the wall of the house, and then you have like your soffit, right? And then there's gutter out here. Everything that's here is outside the footprint of the house, right? So it's still freezing cold out here. So ice will build up in it's a literal actual dam, right? It's in the gutter or on the edge of the house. You don't have to have a gutter to get ice dam. We have it at our house, and I don't have gutter on my place. And then if it keeps getting warm under there, and it keeps, the bottom keeps melting, but then it froze when it got to the end, then that'll pool up and pour in, right? It'll just find a way in. It doesn't cause damage to the roof. It doesn't cause damage to the felt or anything else. Unless it goes on for a really long period of time, it's likely not going to cause damage to the framing, but it absolutely will damage finished surfaces like drywall, run down the wall, mess up some trim, especially if they have like MDF trim, get on the floor, can cause damage to the floor. Ice dam, pretty common. Those are kind of the main things that you're going to encounter with snowstorm, winter storm claims. One thing I will tell you is to be very, very, very mindful of the policy, because in certain states and certain policies, patio covers may be covered for weight of snow. You get a lot of, like in Denver, I worked a storm in weight of snowstorm in Denver, and all I had was nothing but patio covers. And that was one of the easiest, it was a very lucrative storm, because you take 3 or 4 or 5 pictures, take pictures of the elevations, double check the inside, and then I'm getting 2 measurements, getting a couple pictures of the patio cover. I'm writing a $6,000 estimate or a $4,500 estimate or whatever because those are expensive, right? And then I'm off to the next one. You can do one of those in literally actual 10 minutes, start to finish, including writing it up, right? Because you're not taking a million photos. But you got to make sure that you understand the policy, because if there's personal property items under it, they may or may not be covered. right? So it might be coverage for them, there might not. You just have to double check the policy. If you have weight of damage to fence from weight of ice and snow, that might not be covered, right? So fence might be excluded as something that is, if it gets damaged by weight of ice and snow or wind, well, not wind necessarily because wind will be covered, but I've gotten zinged on a couple of claims where people had some sort of I call it unconventional construction where they have a patio cover and then they enclose part of the sides of it with fence, and when the fences get banged over because the patio cover collapsed, and I'm paying for those pieces of fence as theoretically as part of the patio cover enclosure or whatever it is, and getting in trouble for paying for something because it's fence, it's not covered. In that particular state was Washington State several years ago. So they can be a little bit challenging. You absolutely 100,000% have to pay attention to the policy and not just be paying for everything just because it's not like a hailstorm where almost single thing is covered. You have to pay attention to the policy. And when you go to your orientations, or if you do like a conference call orientation or a WebEx or a Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever it is, they'll tell you. And if they don't, ask. Be like, are there any policy considerations that we need to look out for with regard to things that may or may not be covered? I've seen, I had one where it was in New York, and they had a lot of snow, and then it rained, and then the snow melted, and it got underneath the pool. People had an in-ground pool. It was like a big fiberglass thing, right? And it floated. The pool was empty for the winter, but it floated the pool out of 3 or 4 feet out of its spot in the ground, and it damaged there was like all this, patio paver stuff around the concrete and stuff around the sides of it, and just ruined all that stuff. Not covered for that particular instance because it was considered to be surface water and earth movement and things like that, so it just wasn't covered. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to things that may or may not be covered with regard to weight of winter storms, because they can get really sketchy. The other kind of claim that you actually, now that I'm thinking about this, that is pretty common with winter storms is going to be refrigerated food loss, right? So if you have power outage, you have to pay attention to whether the power outage was on premises or off premises. There can be some distinctions there where it's not covered or it is covered. Refrigerated food loss is generally going to be a additional coverage, and it's usually on a higher end policies, but it may not necessarily be. It may be an endorsed thing. It could be included as part of the policy. It just depends. But basically, and they'll have a limit. They have its own special limit, and usually a deductible doesn't apply to refrigerated food loss. So you may have a claim where the person has refrigerator in the kitchen and a deep freeze in the garage, and froze, power went out for whatever reason, pulled power, it's a tree limb pulled the power line off the side of the house, and the refrigerator and the freezer were fine when it was super duper cold, but then you had several days in a row the power was still out, because there was widespread power outage, and warms up to 45 or 50 degrees, which can absolutely, in the Midwest, can absolutely happen. And then everything that's in the refrigerator and the deep freeze defrosts, melts, goes bad, right? So they open up the refrigerator and it smells like, there's dead bodies in there because it's rotten food. That's covered. And usually when in that certain circumstance, the policy may specify that you've got a $500 limit per unit, right? So in other words, the kitchen, fridge, and freezer is one unit, right? So you open up the fridge door, and then above that's the freezer door, or there's a drawer or whatever it is. It's one unit. All that stuff's in there. $500 limit for that. No deductible. And then for the deep freeze in the garage, or if they have a fridge in the garage or whatever, same deal, right? So then you have a deep freeze in the garage, $500 limit for that unit. It could be that it's $500 for the whole. It doesn't matter how many units they have. It just get $500. It could be $1,000 limit per unit. These are the things that you need to know in detail so that you can write a proper estimate and not get your files kicked back on every claim because you could have written, for $500 per unit, and then didn't because you didn't know, right? You just did $500, and they had 2 deep freezes and a fridge in the garage and a fridge in the rec room and a mini fridge in one of the kids' rooms and all, a bunch of refrigerators, and they could have given them $500 for each one. So that said, I think refrigerated food loss is one of those kind of things that probably these days they may be, if it's only refrigerated food loss claims, the carriers might be taking care of those. But as part of a larger claim, if you have, you may have ALE because the homeowner can't be in the house because they had a burst water pipe upstairs and everything's soaked, drywall's peeling off the ceiling and the walls, can't live there. No power, right? Power's probably off. They can't use the water, so they've got an ALE, so they got to go stay in a hotel or whatever. And then you have their personal property. Of course, you have dwelling, right? So you have the structure, and then you've got refrigerated food loss. So you need to be cognizant that the refrigerated food loss piece, it's possible that it could go under just regular contents, but you got to ask. You got to find out how they're handling that. I would say one of the challenges of doing refrigerated food loss is that you getting a list from people. I mean, you can call and you can say, hey, yeah, it looks, it may not stay on the notes, like on your FNOL, but you're going to ask, right? So on claims like these, you absolutely got to ask, hey, by the way, did you guys lose anything out of the fridge? Was the power off? And, did you lose some food out of the fridge? Oh, yeah. No, we had to throw everything away. We went to Costco and replaced everything. And da-da-da. Oh, okay, great. If you could make a list of everything that was in there and just, this is what I usually tell people. Make a list of everything that was in there, and with the prices, if they replaced things one for one, they went to Costco or Sam's or the grocery store, and they're like, okay, well, we had 2 gallons of milk. We're going to get 2 more gallons of milk, right? You owe them for what they had, not for what they got. So if they went and bought a bunch of different stuff, it's groceries. So it's not that big of a deal. But I will say, make a list of everything that was in there. You don't have to say, if you had 6 things of cheese, like, Kraft singles or whatever, because, you make a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches. You don't have to say, 1 packet of Kraft singles, $3.49. 1 packet of Kraft singles, and then have 1 thing of feta, so on and so forth. I'm going to say just lump all that stuff together. Assorted cheeses, there's approximately, each one's worth about $4 or $5 a piece times 10. So $45 we'll say worth of cheese. And I'm going to say just write cheese and write $45. Milk, same thing. Meat, you could say, assorted steaks and roasts, beef, $75. So it's keep it like, I tell people to do generic categories. Your on-site management may say, no, we need it to be detailed down to, if they have a packet of ranch in there and it's worth 14 cents, we want to have that itemized out. They may say that to you. But if you don't get any specific instruction about that, and if you ask, you're like, I don't know, just get the list. Categories, right? And so when you're talking to the homeowner on the phone, listen, the thing that's going to make this go really a lot quicker and help us to get you a check in the mail or get you a check sooner than later. If when I get there on Thursday at 9, if you could have your refrigerated food loss list ready for me for each unit, right? So explain it, if you got the refrigerator, what was in the fridge, what was in the freezer, and if you got deep freeze, what was in the deep freeze, etc. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to have the list, right? It doesn't matter and the thing about it is, even on claims where that's all they had, people still got things to do. They're still dealing with life, right? Kids got to go to school. Maybe they just got back from vacation. They're just getting ready to go to vacation. Who knows? List didn't get made. Do not, under any circumstances, let that hold up your claim. So if you show up at the house and you introduce yourself and all right, we're going to get started here. Oh, by the way, were you able to get that list put together I asked for on the phone? Ah, shoot. Well, I got started on it and then the phone rang and then we started watching Yellowstone. And then next thing I know, it was 4 days later, whatever it is, right? So they didn't do it. I'm going to say, all right, well, let's talk about what's in the freezer and in the fridge in the kitchen. Did you have any meat in there? Okay, well, how much meat? How much do you think that was worth? And then I'm just going to like write the list out on my piece of paper, everything, right? This unit, kitchen unit, right? And then flip over a piece of paper. All right, what'd you have in the deep freeze? Lobster tail, a packet of frozen halibut, frozen cherries, 4 tubs of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, $7 a piece, whatever, right? So just write all stuff out and then add it all up. That's what I'm going to pay them off of. And remember, you generally speaking, you're going to have a limit. It could be as low as $250, could be as high as $1,500, just depends. Make sure you know that limit. Once you get over the limit, then that's a situation where, you keep writing it, right? So if you're like, all right, well, it looks like they have a $250 limit, but they have $900 or $1,000 worth of food. Well, that extra $750, that's an amount over a limit. If any, it doesn't matter. It's on these policies, on homeowners policies, you can apply that to the deductible, right? So in other words, if they have a $1,000 deductible, now they've got a $250 deductible because you applied the overage to that particular coverage. Again, always double check with your site management. Make sure it's okay. Don't be like, well, Matt on Adjuster TV told me to do that. But look for opportunities to save money for the homeowner. Look for opportunities to help them absorb deductibles wherever you can, because you can do it. You can totally do it. So get that list while you're at the house, and then all right, now let's go look at the rest of the house. You got ice dam over here. Take pictures, measure, write that sucker up, drop in, refrigerated food loss, and then you have kitchen unit, however much money, and then you've got. And you can put a note on there. This is subject to a limit, right? And then you've got your next line item, which is refrigerated food loss, garage deep freeze unit, this much, right? And then you get into your coverages in Xactimate, and you'll add those refrigerated food losses in however they want you to do them. And then that claim's done. Then it's not sitting on your desk waiting for you or waiting for the homeowner to get around to putting together a list, right? This is a thing where you need to get the claims done quickly. Do not wait for food lists. Stand there in the kitchen with them or wherever and write that list out, right? Because you're standing there talking to them, right? They may even replace the food already and they got the receipt. Oh, well, it looks like we bought whatever, right? Don't wait for food lists. If they had trees down, I say this all the time, don't wait for tree bills, right? Because it's the same deal, right? The tree guys may be running around like crazy, and all they're doing all day long is cutting trees off of houses, off of power lines, off of fences, off of whatever, and it's widespread, right? And maybe there's not enough tree guys running around. Don't wait for a tree bill, because the tree guy is going to tell the homeowner, he's going to say, oh yeah, no problem. Well, I'll email that to you. I'll bring it by, in a day or two. Well, if you're at the house and it's been 3 or 4 days since the storm and the guy cut the tree off 2 days ago, I'm going to say, well, what's his number? Let's call him. So I call him right there while I'm standing there in the insured's living room. And, hey, this is Matt with such and such insurance company. I'm standing here at 1234 Elm Street here over in, Jefferson City or whatever it is. Mrs. Smith, right? Because they're going to know the address before they're going to know the insured's name. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Listen, she said that you came over here and cut the tree off the house, and just wondering if you got a bill put together. Yeah, listen, dude, this is what he'll say, guaranteed. Listen, bro, yeah, I mean, we've been just running like crazy. I haven't had time to even sit down. I'm getting 1 hour sleep a night. Okay, no problem. Yeah, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. Any way you can give me a ballpark on this? Yeah, I'll have to sit down. I'm in the truck right now. I'll have to sit down and look at it. He's not going to have time. What he's going to do is he's going to drive around with his crew or crews, and they're going to cut trees off of houses for a couple of weeks, right? And then he's going to sit down and go back and figure out what everybody owes him, right? Probably. You may find some like super good, diligent, business people that are like, they won't leave the house without taking a check, but you're not gonna be getting those tree bills. Your file will sit on your desk and it'll wreck your cycle time because you're waiting on somebody else. You write, this is what you do. In that circumstance, you're not gonna get the tree bill within the next few days, and you need to get the homeowner some money, get them reimbursed or whatever. You write a reasonable estimate. As an adjuster, you're an estimator, right? You're going to use DMO tree HR, right? And say, all right, looks like, I don't know, 2 guys with chainsaws, could cut all that stuff off of there in 4 hours. A half day. I always do it in half days, right? So 4 hours or 8 hours, or so per guy, right? So if say we do, it's a big old tree on there, and they were there all day long for one day, and there was 3 guys, 8 hours each, right? Times whatever, just plug that in, and then you put a note in, an F9 note along with that line item saying, the following line items are to remove the tree from the dwelling so that the repairs can be made, and certain whatever it is allowance for tree debris removal up to this amount to get that specific debris away from the house or off the property, right? And then I'm going to have 3 persons times 8 hours each. Just put that in that F9 note, just below somewhere, right? And that's the number I'm going to put in. So 3 times 8 is 24, right? So it's 24 times whatever the hourly, $75 an hour, whatever it is, right? And then I'm going to have another line item that is a dumpster. And those are both going to be, if that's what makes sense to use. And those will both be coded as tree debris removal, or tree debris. Take that back, that's not true. Getting the tree off of the house is part of the dwelling coverage, because they have to do it in order to do the repairs, right? So it's part of the repairs of the house. You'll have a separate coverage for the debris removal itself, and it's going to have a limit of $500 or $1,000 or whatever, and you'll have to look in the policy to see what that is. That's the limit for that tree debris removal, right? And then $500, and then your dumpster gets that coverage attached to it. And that's basically how that works, right? Just write that up. It literally takes, it would have taken 10% of the amount of time I just took to explain how to do it, especially if you get a macro, it's 5 seconds. It's the easiest possible estimate. Close that file. In 22, 21, whatever it was years of doing claims and doing a lot of tree claims, because wind claims, wind and hail, winter storms, hurricanes, all of them are going to have trees. In writing more than 10 or 12,000 claims over my career, never one time did I have somebody come back needing more money for their tree, get the tree off the house. It just didn't happen. I never heard from those claims ever again. And I was on some of those storms for months. So write it up. Same thing, if the tree lands on a power line, or if whatever happens, power line gets yanked off the side of the house, pulls the power mast off this, if they've got like an aerial power, which a lot of places in the country do, pulls the power mast, yanks the meter base off. City comes out, does some little remedial repairs, and then the electrician comes out and fixes everything else. Write that up. That's an easy one. It's, you may give them some money to get the tree off of the power line, which somebody had to do, right? Because it damaged the dwelling. And then you're going to pay for replacing the power mast and the meter base. And usually those are $700 to $1,500 to do just that electrical work. At least they were, 5 years ago. Could be more than that now. Write that sucker up. There's no kind of coverage, there's no kind of situation that I can think of in these circumstances where you're going to want to hold on to a claim and wait for anything. Okay, just write it up, right? Definitely do not they have power surge, right? And the computer, the TV don't work since the storm. Under no circumstances you're going to wait for those. You're going to say, all right, we'll just take the TV down to Best Buy, let the Geek Squad take a look at it, and if they determine that it's damaged by power surge, caused by lightning or whatever it was, and then we'll pay for whatever they say the repair is. Or if the repair is, if it's like in this case, that's a $200 TV. I mean, TVs are cheap these days, and it's going to be $200 to fix it. Let's say it's a $1,000 TV for some reason, and it's going to be $750 to fix it. You might as well just buy a new TV, right? It's kind of silly to do that, right? And that's another conversation that you'll have with your on-site IA management. Hey, what happens if they have this thing? They went and got the thing, the repair technician's estimate already. And the guy said it was caused by power surge from the big storm. So it's I know I can pay for that TV, but he says it's going to cost almost as much to replace it as it would almost as much to repair it as it would to replace it what do I do? What's the cutoff, right? And they'll tell you. That's my advice for you guys on these kinds of claims. You're gonna, like I said, you're gonna be doing ice dam, weight of ice and snow on dwelling structures. I've seen a lot of flattened garages, detached and otherwise. You're gonna have pipe freeze, which can cause considerable damage, and those are full-fledged water claims. Refrigerated food loss, and then whatever it was I was just talking about. Pulling the power mast off the sides of the house. All different kinds of claims like that are what you're going to encounter on storms like this. They're not super hard if you got good macros. If you're take them just one bite at a time, right? Just you don't have to like pull up and see that half the house is flattened or the walls are bowed out or whatever and have a panic attack. All of those, you have to just remember that houses and buildings are basically 95% air, right? It's a box, right? So all you're dealing with is the framing, insulation, and finished surfaces, flooring, drywall, plaster, paneling, whatever it is, and then paint. And then you may have to deal with some electrical and some plumbing and some cabinets. That's about it, right? It's not a huge amount of, it's not like you're having to rebuild the space shuttle, from scratch with no blueprint or anything. Houses and buildings are pretty simple. Just remember that when you pull up to one that you're like, oh my gosh, the tree hit it, and you can see that the walls are all doing this, and there's cracks everywhere. Just start at the top and work your way down. What's broken, right? When I'm looking at this and I see that the walls are racked, I could see a piece of, a little piece of the 2x4 sticking out of the wall or whatever. What can I reasonably imagine is damaged in there? And just pay for it. Just write it up and hand him a check and move on. Say, listen, I'm writing my estimate based on what I can see. And, once you get your contractor out here and he starts getting the subs lined up and they really start to dig into this thing, if they find that there's more damage, if the repairs are going to be more extensive, if we have to actually replace those cabinets instead of just pulling them out and putting them back in, because I'm not going to pull them out to look at the back of them or whatever, call us back and we'll work with your contractor to make sure we get you the right amount of money to do this work. All you got to say, right? You don't have to have a freak out and say, well, there's no way. And, don't just, everything's going to be okay. Just write up what you can see as best you can. Get some money in their hand. Don't let the claim sit on your desk. Particularly don't let your claim sit on your desk just waiting for food loss, tree bills, and things like that. So that's my advice to you for winter storm claims. We've got some winter storms. Winter's just started like a week ago, right? That's the first day of winter was like literally a week ago. So we're just getting into this. Who knows? It could be, in like a lion till Christmas, and then the whole rest of the season is, mild temperatures and nothing's going on. Who knows? But it is what it is. So anyway, that's what I want to leave you guys with. Hope everybody again had a happy Christmas and everything. We will catch you on the next one. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great storm.
Adjuster TV. If you're too busy to go fishing, you're too busy.